Welcome. I'm Scott Humphrey, CEO of the World Floor Covering Association. We appreciate you joining us for our second A Leader's Journey. I hope you had a chance to tune in with us a couple of weeks ago when we had Howard Brodsky on, the co-CEO of CCA Global. Fascinating interview. I learned so much more about him, and we know that today's will be just enjoyable for you. Many of you know Piet Dossche. Piet has been a friend of mine for years, but he has had an influence on our industry unlike many other people have. And let me give you just a little bit of background on Piet. He is the founder and CEO of US Floors. He is the executive vice president of Shaw Hard Surface. He's a passionate father, passionate husband, multi-patent holder, a lot of those around WPC, and we'll talk a little bit about that. He is the man most responsible for the LVT tsunami that has really swept over the industry over the last few years, and he is amazingly driven. He's the newest inductee into the WFCA Hall of Fame, and he's still so young. He's got so much more drive and so much more to accomplish. So, Piet, thank you so much for taking some time out of your very busy schedule to be with us today.
Scott, thank you very much, and what an introduction. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today and in front of the audience as well. So it's always a privilege. Thank you.
Thanks. So Piet, I always start, and I did this with Howard. You'll see when you get a chance to watch that interview. I have this tendency when I get on an airplane to sit down next to people and simply lean over and say, so what's your story? Tell me your story. You've got a pretty extensive story. You've had many highs and lows throughout the industry's time together, but more highs certainly than lows. If I ask you that question and you walk us back through, how would you tell your story?
Well, that's quite interesting. My story is really, in all fairness, I mean, I've been very fortunate in my story. Been in the floor covering industry for basically all my life, ever since I started at Beaulieu in Belgium in 1981. Went to the United Kingdom for a couple of years and then became managing director of Beaulieu's plant in the United Kingdom, South Wales actually, in 1984, and came to the United States in 1990 because I always wanted to be part of the United States. Had been here in 1978 when I was 18 years old, between high school and university, tobacco harvesting in Ohio, in a Flemish owned tobacco farm. And when I came to the States, Scott, I mean, I was so impressed with the positive can-do attitude that I told my parents, as soon as I can, I want to move to the United States and really find the opportunity there. And that's what I did at the 1990, joined Beaulieu of America. Carl Buchart, who at that was and still is my brother-in-law, married to his sister Sabine, and basically became part of the Beaulieu of America growth story in the 90s when all this consolidation was going on in the industry. Very exciting time. We were, on a high. Everybody was, this thing was growing like crazy. Almost touched the $2 billion mark. And then, of course, I left Beaulieu and started US Floors in 2001. Created a whole story there. Cortec, you see it behind me, of course, the jewel on the crown. So along the road, I can say that I've been very fortunate. My story has been a fantastic story if I look back at all those years. And I don't want to sound like I'm just looking back at the past, because I think the future is really what I want to look at. But it's been great, and among the whole journey, I've made so many great friends, great customers, great journey with my family. So it's been good.
Fantastic. So let me remind the audience who's watching this, you have a Q&A segment down at the bottom. You feel free to click on there if you have additional questions. I've got a list of questions I plan on asking Piet, but if you have something else you'd like to ask him, feel free to put your question in there and I'll do all I can to air that question to him during our time together. So Piet, obviously people like you that have accomplished, like you've accomplished, ironically, the thing they hate to talk about the most is themselves. They really want to focus on the future and the vision, and looking back is difficult. But you did accomplish a lot, and you accomplished a lot at a young age. I think when you got the position over the manufacturing facility, you were like 24 or so years old, correct?
Yes, correct. That's correct. Yeah.
So what did they see in you that early that made them say, let him lead?
I really don't know, Scott. I mean, I'll tell you a little bit how I started with Beaulieu in Belgium. That's because that's interesting as well. I mean, I came out of college. I had studied economics in Brussels. And I started with Beaulieu, a group of companies in Wilsbeke, Belgium. And the training session in those days was very simple. There was no training. Okay, so you jumped into the pool and you better start swimming or you were sinking. And when I arrived, they said they sent me to the warehouse, and I had to wait for about an hour before the warehouse manager came to talk to me, the junior. He didn't have time for me. He said, "Here's a broom, start sweeping." And that's what I did. For 3 weeks, I swept the warehouse. I became a master sweeper, and I started my career in the flooring industry. And it's only when they were asking for a volunteer to go and pick up customers at the airport in Brussels, when I raised my hand, I said, "Me, I don't want to sweep anymore. I'm going to be the driver." That things really changed, because at that time, I had an opportunity for about an hour between Brussels and the headquarters to drive all these customers from all over the world, and being able to ask questions about the industry, what's happening in your neck of the woods, what's happening in Australia, in New Zealand, in the Arab countries, in America, in wherever, Germany, Scandinavia. And that was for me the beginning of understanding a little bit what flooring was all about. And then came the opportunity to go to the United Kingdom, where, again, nobody was expecting me there. I arrived, we were in an industrial park right next to Glenburn Steelworks, Monsanto. We had our living quarters above the offices. The plant was running 24/7. The plant was a heavy unionized plant. 1982, 1983, 1984. This was a very aggressive environment there. And I basically started there in the sample department, and kept my head down till, I always say everybody in life has to have an aha moment. And my aha moment came when one night the phone rang at around 11 o'clock, and I was the only one still awake. Everybody else had gone to bed. And I pick up the phone, and it's Roger de Klerk, the owner and founder of Beaulieu in Belgium. And he says, "Who are you?" And I explained. He kind of didn't really know me. And his typical style was, starting to ask questions. I was 22 years old at the time. And he said, "How many square meters did you make in the plant today, Piet?" And I was in the sample department. I didn't have a clue. I mean, nobody was telling me anything. I was just, basically, a junior. And I said, "Mr. de Klerk, I don't know. I'm sorry, but I don't know." And that's the beginning of the grilling session. What was your percentage of seconds, your quality? What is your utility cost? What is your... And every time he asked me a question, I had to say, "Mr. de Klerk, I'm really sorry, but I don't know." So all of a sudden he says, "What the do you know?" And he smashes the phone down, and that was the end of the conversation. And I thought, that's it. My career is gone. I'm 22 years old, just started. I can as well pack my bags, go back to Belgium, and forget about this whole thing. And didn't sleep that night, but the next morning, I woke up and I said, this will never, ever happen to me again, that I'm going to be asked questions that I cannot answer. And this was a heck of a lesson for me, because the next day I started to walk around the plant and went to the managers and the supervisors and say, what are we doing? What are we making? What exactly is going on here? And bit by bit, I started to understand the process. And the more you know, the more people volunteer to share things with you, the more you know again. So it's a vicious circle. Then all of a sudden I got in some of the management meetings. When we went to Belgium, I got involved in the Saturday mornings, because we were still working on Saturday morning meetings with the top brass over there. And all of a sudden I must have gotten noticed by them that I had, some brains in my head as well, not just a super sweeper. So when the managing director in 1984, who was then in charge of the company, left and somebody else had to be appointed, Roger de Klerk came to me and said, "Piet, I want you to be in charge of the plant. Can you handle that?" I said, "Yes, sir, I can handle it." And that was the opportunity that he gave me. Wow. And that's how it did.
Did you ever have a chance to recount the story of the phone call with him?
No, I have not done that. I mean, unfortunately, he passed away now, but I have not been able to do that. But this is for me the aha moment when I came. And again, it tells you something. It was a lesson for me. I mean, if you're not proactive yourself, nothing is going to happen. Nobody's going to volunteer things to you. So I tell my kids as well. You have to really get out there, be proactive. Be curious yourself, make things happen yourself. Because the world is very individualistic, and they're not going to share it unless you ask. And when you ask, the world opens up, because then they say, hey, he's interested in what's going on, and then you really get to know a lot of things, and people share, and then knowledge is power.
Yeah, I often say there's more power in the question than there is in the answer.
Yeah,
especially if you're willing to listen and give people the time. So you knew I was going to ask this, Piet, but how would you describe your leadership style? I've heard from some other people. I've asked around about people that have worked with you or that are working with you now, but how would you describe your leadership style?
Well, I really like to hear what other people say about my leadership style, but I know a little bit what my style is, and I constantly start or try to work on that, because I mean, everybody can always improve their own style. But I would say that overall, in a nutshell, I think I'm demanding, but I'm fair. I'm a demanding person because I'm passionate. When I believe in something, when I believe in a story, in a product, in going in a certain direction, I'm all in, and I want my team to be all in as well. I'm very big into team building. I will take care of my team. When you're on my team, I'll do anything for you. But I want you to be as passionate as I am, and that's why I'm demanding. I cannot accept kind of mediocrity or not being focused as much as I am, because that's how it is. But I'm fair. And then when you join me in that passionate journey, and you're on my team, I will take care of you. And it's one of the things that I always believe in. You obviously people basically react very well to positive attitude and to being treated well and to be compensated well. I mean, you have to compensate people the right way. One of the big things that we did at US Floors when we launched CoreTech, we give our people an opportunity to have unlimited upside, but we were demanding. We demanded top line growth and gross margin performance. So when you hit those two and you ask the sales team, if you have a chance out there, the sky was the limit. And then at the same time, you create an atmosphere of winning, a team effort, and like you said, I mean, people will go through wall for you. And I've been so fortunate that I've been able to work with a team that had the same vision, saw the same passion, saw the same opportunity. We were a winning team, and we still are a winning team. And everybody kind of saw the opportunity to take it to the next level. So in a nutshell, I'm demanding, I'm fair, I'm passionate. I will trust, but I will verify. That as well. So there's a few things that I can improve. I know that. You will know where you stand. I mean, pretty quickly. And never take anything personal. That's the other thing. Sometimes, I might not always be the most polished guy, but I always tell my people, when we leave the meeting, things are said. I still love you. Turn the page. Don't take it personal.
That's good. I think, Piet, one of the differences, and I tend to know you a little bit better than some of the people I'll have the privilege of speaking to on this, but you're demanding, but you don't demand anything of anyone else that you don't demand of yourself. I mean, I've known very few people in the industry that are as driven as you are. And like you said, once you're committed to something, it's kind of watch out. Our mutual friend, Christian Grasso, one of the great salespeople for US Floors, he talked to me about you tend to create the path that other people follow. You actually make your own road, because once you're committed to that, watch out, because you're going to get to the end. Whatever route you have to go to get there, you're going to get to the end. I think that's what people are willing to follow, because one of the things that I see, I had the privilege of speaking to your sales group before you were part of the Shaw group when it was just US Floors, this passionate family feel where people love being together. And I've rarely seen that in any other company, but they're always highly motivated. Mediocrity would not be allowed, not only from you, but from their peers. Their peers expect that same level of performance from them.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, success feeds success, and a great team basically builds on itself. And you know, you're right. I mean, real leaders will never ask from other people what they are not willing or cannot do themselves. I mean, that would be crazy, because leadership is leading by example. I mean, these are basic things that most everyone knows. So I will never ask anyone to do anything that I haven't done myself. I mean, when I started US Floors, it was myself and my first employee was Sherry Ramsey. I mean, who's still my executive assistant right now. And of course, Sabine helped me in the beginning. The kids were still young. Sabine helped me a lot. But I mean, how many days and how many weeks that we basically got things done till 10 o'clock at night, because we had to have a presentation the next morning in Mooresville or North Wilkesboro. At the time, Lowe's was not in Mooresville yet. And I left at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, drove all the way up there, got there at 4 o'clock in the morning, took a nap for a couple of hours and made my first presentation at 8 o'clock. And then, went to a second presentation in the afternoon and drove back. And we did it all the time. I mean, so I did all that. And I'm not blowing my horn here. I'm just saying that, when I ask people as well to kind of do things, go the extra mile, go the extra, pull the extra weight, is because I would do it myself, and I do it myself. And because once you start something, I mean, the passion is what really drives it. That's the fuel that really gets things going, and passion and determination. I mean, if you have a goal somewhere, don't give up till you reach it. It's as simple as that. And that doesn't mean that it's always a straight line. Forget that. I mean, it's never a straight line. Let me put it this way: many times you zig and you zag before you get to that goal. As long as you keep your eye on that goal, you're gonna get there. So it's been a journey, and a journey of ups and downs, but a lot more ups than downs. And again, the leadership accomplishment that I think I would really kind of highlight a little bit most is the fact that I was able to build a heck of a team around me with tremendous people and tremendous passion and a tremendous following and hardworking people that really put the whole story on the map. And we're fast, and we're really making things happen.
So I know a little bit of your story. As I said to you before we came on live with everybody, you're very open. You shared your story multiple times. There was a time when you chose to leave Beaulieu America because you kind of saw the writing on the wall, and you had this idea, this concept of creating this organization called US Floors. A lot of bamboo and cork was a lot of your focus product wise to begin with. Pete, was there ever a time during that time where you thought, yeah, I'm going to throw it in. This is not going to work. And if there was, why did you keep going? What was it that kept you focused forward?
Well, I mean, it's, I mean, this whole, when I left Beaulieu of America, I mean, maybe I should go a little bit from the beginning. I mean, I was, Beaulieu of America was a passionate organization as well. I mean, you can only be, if you run Carl Buchart, you have to be passionate. You have to be kind of full of energy as well. He's, but we were growing fast. We were growing maybe too fast. We were growing a little bit uncontrolled. I was in charge of the residential flooring division at the time, which was the largest segment. And when we bought LD Brinkman at the end of the 90s, I mean, again, we were stretched up to here financially. The balance sheet was not strong enough to kind of handle all that. And certain things that we thought were for real in the acquisition were a little bit smoke and mirrors. So there were some skeletons in the closet. Anyway, long story short, at the end of the 90s, basically, Beaulieu was not in good shape, and the fingers were pointing my direction as I was in charge of the largest division. And I've never been fired, and I didn't want to get fired, but I knew I was going to get fired. So I said, to avoid to get fired is to better leave before you get fired. Okay, so that's what I did. And on Easter Sunday in 2001, I left the company. Ralph Bow took over for me. Ralph, fantastic guy, did an incredible job. Just a quick story there. I still had a bottle of champagne in my fridge that a customer had given me, and I wrote on that bottle of champagne, "Good luck, Ralph," and I put it on my desk for Ralph to see it the first Monday when he started. And Rolf tells me he still has that bottle. I mean, it's also, yeah. So when I started, then I immediately flooring, of course, carpet was not an option. Hard surfaces was going strong. So I went to China, looked at it, saw bamboo, saw it as a new novel thing, brought it to the United States, went with it to Lowe's, went with it to Home Depot, as a matter of fact, first to Home Depot, then went with it to Carpet One and Abbey. Those are, you know, both Alan Greenberg at the time and Charlie Dilks and you know, basically supported me tremendously in giving me an opportunity to present the product to the CCA group. And so did Phil Gutierrez. I mean, he was just an absolute jewel gentleman to give me the opportunity to come to the Abbey convention and say, Piet, here, there's a space here for you. And I'll never forget the support I got in the beginning from those people. Fantastic. And it gave me a start. And then bamboo, yeah, was kind of hot, was new. It started to go. So I was an authority in bamboo. Not that that meant a lot. It was only $25–30 million, but you know, somebody had to be an authority in bamboo. It happened to be me. And then, you know, one day at one of the Carpet One conventions, I bumped into Philippe Eramouspe, who became my partner afterwards. French guy, and I love Philippe, and he's a great guy. And talking, Philippe was kind of bragging how Cork was going incredible, and Cork and unbelievable, and the margins were incredible, and 60%. I said, wow, 60% margin on Cork, that's pretty strong. So I went back to Sabine, who was there with me in my tiki hut, you know, at the convention, and I said, there's a French guy over there who's selling Cork flooring, and he tells me it's growing like crazy, and it's 60%, 65% margin on it. That we need to get into the Cork flooring. So, you know, went to Portugal, got a Cork flooring collection. The next Carpet One convention, 6 months later, I had my bamboo on the right and I had my Cork on the left. And I said, I'll show that Frenchie. And, you know, needless to say, that I was very proud. So I went to see him, and, you know, God forbid, I mean, obviously I must have said a few things about bamboo as well, because, you know, there he was with his Cork on the right and bamboo on the left. So he had to put a bamboo collection together. So I said, oh my God. Anyway, long story short, we became friends. You know, we joined forces. I bought his company. Philippe became a very, very strong partner of mine and helped me build US Floors into what it became under the Cortex story as well. But there was a time, clearly, when, you know, the market kind of collapsed in 2007, 2008, and you know, we had been growing fast up until that time, and all the money went into inventory. So liquidity was not all that strong. So it was touch and go there for a while. And why do you persevere? You know, because you're all in, Scott. You're all in. I was all in. I had signed everything away. There was no way back. I mean, when you believe in it. I mean, and again, you know, I can say one thing about, you know, my family and Sabine for sure. She always believed in what I did. And if I asked her, you know, we're going to have to put the house and everything we have, you know, as collateral against the bank, she did it. She never questioned it. She never kind of asked, I mean, are you for sure? You know, she believed in me and so why do you persevere? Because there's no way back. You're all in. And bit by bit, you raise more liquidity, you get your inventories down, you kind of get back into good position. Yeah, your top line shrinks 30–40%. You dig yourself back out of a hole, you cut your cost, and that's how we kind of got back after the downturn, build it back up till we had an opportunity to basically become part of the LVT story, and then of course it went even faster.
Well, that's what I want to talk about next, Piet. Obviously, what you've done with LVT and the WPC component of LVT has changed the industry dramatically. I mean, if you look at the percentage of flooring now that comes from that product category, much of that stems from you. And again, your willingness to take risk, which is another thing that people talk about when they describe you, is that not only are you all in, but when you feel that that's the right direction to go, even if there's risk involved, you're willing to take that risk. It's something I don't see in a lot of leaders. I see it in a lot of managers, that they're kind of bound in. They're not willing to take the risk. But great leaders will say, you've got to roll the dice every now and then. So tell us about the first patent, what you did, what you found, and kind of what made you go forward.
Yeah, well, we obviously saw the incredible growth in LVT happening in the market, and our business was a good business. We had about $80–90 million business in bamboo and FSC certified wood and cork, and it was nice. But you know, how big was it ever going to get? And we saw the LVT growing leaps and bounds, and we wanted to be part of it. I wanted to be part of something that could take it to the next level. But again, we did not want to just import commodity and sell it on price. I mean, price has never been my focus, and that's probably one of the things that kind of, even through the tough years, you know, made us survive, because it was all about making sure we had the margin, you know, and price was never really the focus. So wanted to do something different, wanted to find a different way to be part of this LVT story. So of course, in our travels to China, we came across a WPC product that was actually for outdoor decking. You know, outdoor decking like Trex is WPC, wood plastic composite, wood polymer composite, because there's a lot of wood fiber, bamboo fiber in Trex outdoor decking. And we were looking at several plants because we were going to expand our offering with outdoor decking. And one of the plants we saw actually a sheet being extruded, a 4x8 sheet being extruded in that same WPC formulation. And we asked, what's that for? I mean, so, well, that's for paneling and kitchen cabinets and indoor walls and waterproof. So waterproof. And a couple of years before, we had seen how LVT was applied to an MDF core, because LVT, great product, but had the issues with the flexibility, and consequently the telegraphing of the subfloor, unevenness of the subfloor was showing. So we had seen in Europe how they put LVT on an MDF core and made a more rigid product. But you know, we always said it's not the right sandwich. You put a waterproof layer on top of a non-waterproof core. You know, what have you achieved? Yeah, you might have had have the rigidity, but you don't have the waterproof story anymore. So when we saw that board, we said that could be it. So obviously it took several trips and actually about a year and a half to kind of get the formulation right, get the density right, get the construction right. And we knew we had something there. We knew we knew it. I knew it in my gut. Philippe knew it as well. We said, that's it. We got something big here, because it really was solving a problem. And again, every time you bring out a beautiful product that solves issues that other products have, that you know, you come up with a winner. So we were solving the problem of the telegraphing. We were solving the problem of the expansion contraction of the plastic LVT floor when exposed to heat. We had solutions, and at the same time we could bring a unique product to the market. So we patented it. You know, we patented it and basically launched it in Surfaces 2013. I mean, quick story, and I know Charlie Dilks probably won't mind, but I'm going to tell the story anyway. And he's actually quite. We have a bit of a fun about it, because he's been telling that story a couple of times as well. I first went to see Charlie in October or September the year before. Said, Charlie, I mean, this is it, incredible product. I want for the CCA group to have it exclusive and run with it, and I showed him all the benefits and the click and the stability and the rigidity, and I said, this is the next generation in LVT. Yeah, Piet, I'm not so sure, and this and that. And I mean, Charlie said no. Okay, needless to say, you know, he a couple of years later he said, I should have listened to you. Piet said, well, I mean, but later on he quickly adapted when he saw the product was taking off very fast. So we launched it at Surface in 2013, and little story there as well, Scott. We were ready for about 94–95%. The product was not finalized. I must admit that. Sometimes you have to go with what you have. Sometimes, you know, speed not sometimes, speed is always of the essence. You know, if you, and we decided it's better to go with a 95 and then tweak it later on to make it 100% than to wait and miss the boat. And that's exactly what we did. And in the beginning, yes, we had a couple of issues and a couple of things, but, you know, I always said, when there is an issue, don't argue, settle it, and move on. And, you know, there's a lesson to be learned there as well, that speed to market is in many cases, yes, you obviously you can't come with a product that totally fails, but, you know, if you're 95% right, it could take you another year to get to 100%. By that time, the train has left the station and you lost the opportunity. And we decided now is the time to get out there, and we did it. And in 2013, we launched it. Everybody said, nah, it's not going to work. And I said, great. The other manufacturers at the time, they don't know anything about LVT. I mean, so everybody came to our booth and our competition, and I said, it's not going to work. And I said, this was music in my ears. As long as they don't believe in it, it gives me more time to perfect it. And I must say, Shaw was the first one about a year and a half later to really saw what this product could do in the market and launched their Floor-Tay collection. And with the launch of Floor-Tay, I mean, the whole category got really, and they endorsed the whole category. I mean, they really, you know, when Shaw kind of came in and said, hey, we believe in it, it was a whole different scenario than just us US Floors trying to basically create the path for the product. But it was exciting. It was unbelievable how we all pumped up because we knew we had the right product.
So, Piet, this industry, as you know, is not really good at adapting to change. And so I assumed you probably got some pushback, but obviously this is part of that drive to overcome the pushback. And so what you're saying is if you believe in something enough, you just keep going.
Just keep going and actually accelerate. You know, not only did we have the product, but I realized if it was really going to get big, I needed the team out there in the marketplace to take it to the consumer, to take it to the retailer. And when we launched it, we only had a small team, 18, 19, 20 salespeople. There's no way we could have covered the whole of the United States. Sam Rubel at the time was my VP of sales, and I said, Sam, for the next 18 months, I want you to do nothing but hire people. I mean, I want an army of 130 people here by the end of 2014, so that we can strike the entire country and we can really get into all the different channels of distribution. And Sam, I mean, he did an incredible job. I mean, he really was out there 24/7 recruiting and you know, working with all the leads that we were getting, and build a team that you know, still today, in my opinion, is the best sales organization that exists in the industry. And why? Because we didn't always hire people from within the industry. We hired people from outside. And for them, it was an opportunity to come into an industry with a very exciting product, with an unlimited opportunity for earnings, because that's, I said it earlier on, I said, this is what I want from you. Everybody got a top line number to achieve and a margin to achieve, and for the rest, go for it. And that's what I did. Everybody made a lot of money. They worked their butt off. They were going fast, and Sam was the orchestra leader or the conductor there of the whole team, and that's how we not only had the right product, but speed to market, launching into the market, getting the real estate, making sure that basically it was being exposed and sold. That was the success of this whole thing. So you have to do a couple things right, but you know, if you believe in it and passion, then you're just all in it. It didn't really matter. Every penny we made was invested again, and forget about dividends, forget about anything. You know, we just all in again.
As you've already said, Piet, the team makes all the difference in the world. I'm going to read a couple of quotes from people that I've spoken to. I deliberately did not go to people at the highest levels within the industry because I think at that level, there's a lot of great admiration. But I think you often hear how somebody really is as a leader when you talk to the people that grew with them. I had the privilege of spending some time with Christian Grasso and Jason McKinley recently, and Jason shared his story that he really knew nothing about flooring. He knew nothing about certainly about U.S. floors. He, like many people, when they caught your enthusiasm, it kind of changed everything. Here's what Jason said. He described you as someone who is genuine, listens to the people around him, and cares what they have to say, which is a big difference there. You don't just listen, but you genuinely care about what they say. He said that you motivate through passion what you believe in, and you do not give up. Pete's a genuine leader that treats his employees like family. He has shown me what hard work, perseverance, integrity, motivation, heart, and passion can do for you. And I hear the word passion with you over and over, Pete. I think about the coach who, the team's down by 7 points at halftime, and that coach goes in and makes them think that they're up by 20, and you have that ability to spur people on. Jacob, I hope I pronounced his name right. Hogendijk?
Jacob Hogendijk, yeah.
Okay, I got it. He was talking about his first meeting with you in 2016, and this is one of those that reminded me of how you bring these people on. He said, I left the meeting willing to run through a wall for him. I told you earlier, kind of jokingly, that I wish I was the contractor you're building, because so many people say they're willing to run through walls for you. We'd be rebuilding a lot of walls. He said, I came away knowing there was something special about him. Pete embodied a lot of what I hoped to be in a leader. And here's the characteristics he noted about you, Pete. Charisma, humility, passion, big picture vision, and as we mentioned before, risk taker. He said, I feel like I could write a book about Pete. His influence in my life over the last 4.5 years has been absolutely transformative. When you hear words like that, Pete, you're not simply providing a paycheck, you're molding people. And one of the things I've admired about you for years is you don't just put people around you that are just like you. Certainly they have to have passion, they have to have drive, they have to be willing to work hard. There are core elements that are essential in everybody, but you also are willing to put people around you that think differently, that challenge your thought process. I've been in meetings with you from a business standpoint, and you admire people that are willing to push back a little bit because you want to know that they've actually thought through their belief, that they're really, as you said, committed to it. So when you hear comments like this, I know it was never your intent. You probably didn't grow up one day and go, one day I'm going to be a leader that influences people like that. But through some of the God-given ability you've done that. What do you think when you hear these things?
Well, I'm feeling a little bit, a little uncomfortable to hear all these nice words and everything, because this is not my style.
Sure.
I really, to trumpet my horn. It's Jacob, Jason, thank you very much. It's beautiful. But I want to stay humble, because you have to stay with your feet on the ground and I don't think it was all that special. It was just doing what I believe was the right thing to do, and the end result ended up being something to be proud of, and not just proud by me, but proud by everyone. That whole team can be proud of what they achieved, and I truly believe that. Everyone contributed in their own way to build the company to the point whereby Shaw Industries looked at us and said, we want this company to be part of our team, and that happened at the end of 2016, almost 4 years ago to the date, and we became part of the Shaw family and the Shaw organization. So everyone has contributed to the success. It's not just me, but you have to, there has to be a leader. I listen to people. I want people to push back. I don't want yes man. I want people to push back, because I don't have all the answers. Well, why would I have all the answers? And there's so much knowledge when you build a team around you. But I always believe that running a company is not a democracy. At the end of the day, somebody has to call the shots. You can't just say all in favor, raise your hand, and all nays. That doesn't work, because then you listen, you evaluate, and you call the shots. At the end of the day, somebody at the top, needs to call the shots and move forward and take the responsibility. So that's always been the case. But we are where we are today because of a lot of hard work. Yes, some vision, some passion, some luck as well. Clearly, you have to have some luck, of a lot of great people that became part of this whole US Floors Cortex story and still are. And still are ongoing. You know, the success is still there because when we became part of the Shaw family, you know, my first and foremost focus was how can I take care of my team? Because obviously it was a little bit nerve-wracking for a lot of them who said, oh my God, what's happening here? And Jacob, as a matter of fact, Jacob, you know, did a full circle. You know, he came from Shaw, joined US Floors, went back to Shaw. So he knew what was happening. And so my first focus was how do I take care of my people? How do I make sure that everybody feels like, you know, I kind of didn't abandon them. So it's been a 3-4 year working of bringing our team into the Shaw team. And I must say, I mean, I've been absolutely amazed how welcome we have been at the Shaw organization, how everybody has, you know, made this thing an incredible integration, success story for all of us. I mean, our company has more than doubled in its size since we have become part of Shaw, and it's thanks to the team that was in place, but thanks to the team that we became part of, with all the might that they have, with all the logistics, with all the organization, with all the finance, with all the strength of the company, and as well, above all, with the willingness to make this to make this work. Because you hear so many times, you hear stories about companies being acquired by other companies, and then before you know, within a matter of no time, there's nothing left, and it's just you know, it all evaporates. And one thing I can tell you, we are in, you know, Cortex is an integral part of our LVT strategy here at Shaw, together with all of other things that we do here. But it's the brand, it's a strong base. It's being embraced by the whole Shaw organization as being a very viable, obviously, brand and product line. Made a lot of money there. Everybody has been, you know, again, has benefited from all that. That's good, you know, because it needs to be, you know, win-win for all. So yeah, it's, you know, I stay humble, Scott. I mean, when I hear all this, I mean, it makes me a little uncomfortable. Yes, everybody always likes to hear these things because it proves that what you're doing is making a difference at the end of the day, sorry. You know, we all want to make a difference. We're on this world only once. We're all trying to make a difference somewhere. That's what I think. So, but I like to stay humble and really attribute all this to the team that made it happen. And there's several I would really highly thank for that.
Well, the humility is something, Piet, honestly, at the higher levels, not only in our industry, and maybe not necessarily in our industry, but in any level of leadership, that's what often goes away, is the leader forgets about being humble, about acknowledging faults, about saying, I've taken risks that didn't work. Here's a good story for you. So I spoke at your sales meeting, I think in 2015, maybe somewhere in there.
2015 it was, yeah.
So I was so excited about there's just this air of energy in that meeting, not just from you. Of course, I was friends with Sam Rubel, and so I knew some of the people that were there as well. But just the sales force was so excited. And there is something special about being part of the birth of something, right? And so they felt like they were in on the front side of this thing. So I leave your meeting and I get a call from a friend of mine who I had hired, or actually he had been hired out in the field, but he'd come back to train at Shaw years before, by the name of Christian Grasso. And Chris just happens to mention he's looking for a job. And I said, man, you have got to work at this place. This is the place you've got to go. I'm so glad I gave him that advice, but Chris is so thankful for the opportunity. I wanted to just share you a little with, now that you're already uncomfortable. Here's what Chris said to me a little bit earlier today. Just meeting him for the first time, said, follow this man and you'll go where few have ever gone. He's an innovator and has no problem in sharing his successes. He thinks outside the box. And in fact, he pushes all that come into his path to do the same. And I think, you know, Piet, when we think about our legacy, which I think a lot about, we're close to the same age. What's really going to outlive us is the relationships and the people we've impacted. So yeah, it may be uncomfortable for you, but I mean, it means you're doing exactly what a leader should do. You're replicating yourself to other people. One more I'm going to make you uncomfortable with. I won't always do this. I'll have people afraid to come on and do these interviews with me. But I wanted to go to the person who in this capacity has known you about as long as anybody, and that's Sherry. And I didn't tell her I would use this, but I just, when we were setting this all up, I said, Sherry, how do you describe Piet's leadership? And if anybody knows you, flaws and all, it's the assistant, the person who's worked with you. Kay Wiley for me would be that person that says, well, he's good, but here are the areas. And this is what Sherry said. She said, I would describe Piet as a passionate visionary. He has the vision to know where we need to go and what can be achieved once we get there. And then he gives his employees the opportunity to execute that vision by choosing which path to take, much like you described yourself. The passion he has for his projects or ideas is so strong that it resonates in people, making them want to climb a mountain to get to the top, no matter how long it will take or how hard it is to climb. Now that would probably mean more to me than all the other words, because as I said, she's
I'm gonna have to give her a bonus now, I think. I'm gonna have to give her a bonus now, Scott. I mean, but again,
it worked. Hey, Sherry, it worked. Fantastic.
No, I mean, thank you. I really appreciate that. But no, but I would say change the subject, because I'm getting a little uncomfortable with all.
I'm moving away. So let me ask you, Piet.
Yeah.
We talked about how people might admire you, but an interesting view of this is, what would your enemies say about you? If you have any, but if you're as successful as you are.
So, enemies is a big word. I mean, enemies is too negative. My competitors. I respect my competitors, because at the end of the day, we're all in this together. We're all in this. I mean, whether they're at Mohawk, EF, Mannington, Armstrong, whatever it is. I mean, we're all in the same industry to kind of create something that's long lasting, that's profitable for all of us, where we can give a lot of opportunity and jobs to many people, and look back at when it's all over and done with, and said, you know what, it worked. We did a pretty decent job. We built something as an industry. So I have a lot of respect for all my competitors. I wouldn't call them enemies. Of course you compete. I mean, that's kind of by default how we do things. But I like to think as well. I mean, you have to reach out to these people. We talk, and we know, and we have when we go to some of the conventions, we have a drink together. We go to NFA meetings. We sit down. We have a good time. We know Monday morning, everybody goes their own way, and we all do what we have to do, what's best for our company. But I believe that you have to kind of find a way to communicate and have a relationship with everyone, unless of course they do something that really is detrimental to your family or whatever. Then that's a different story. That's personal. But I'm not talking about the personal things. I'm talking about the business segment, and I respect all the people in the industry. We got a great industry. And you talk about. I mean, we're in the midst of this COVID challenge, and it's a challenge. It's been a crazy year for all of us, and we're all fed up with it. I mean, no question about it. We all want this to go away. I mean, when I leave here, the first thing I need to do is put my mask on, because that's kind of protocol right now. And by the way, that's what we should do, put our mask on, so that at least we have an opportunity to nip this in the bud. But it's been a strange year, and I think we all want to move on, and we all want to see this thing come to an end. But they talk about the COVID winners and the COVID losers, maybe in the economy and out there in the world. If you think about it, we are so fortunate as an industry that we can really count ourselves to the COVID winners. Clearly. We are part of those who basically are now. Our business is strong, our industry is strong. People are staying home. They're looking at their houses. They renovate. The housing market is booming. New construction is booming. The housing starts is booming. People are moving from the city to the suburbs. They're moving from a 1,800 square foot apartment to a 2,800 square foot suburban dwelling. So we are very, very fortunate that we are in an industry that really has not suffered through this COVID. Yes, we've had some setbacks and we had some challenges, but that's nothing compared to if you belong to any industry that really has been hit hard, and where all these entrepreneurs and these people have dreams as well, whether it's in the leisure, restaurant, hospitality, entertainment. I mean, it's a disaster for these people, and So we as an industry have been fortunate, and I think all of us, competitors included, we should kind of be thankful that at the end of the day, we came out without too many bruises, and we came out good. So it's a great industry to be in. Same thing with our retail partners. I mean, all your membership, Scott, you talk to them all the time. Yeah, for a while it was not fair that they had to close and the big boxes were staying open. Hey, it is what it is. But now they're catching up very, very quickly. There's many dealers I talk to, and the later part of the year is making up for the beginning of the year. And you know, they're coming out of a dip, and now they see the numbers exceeding all expectations. And you know, everybody has been challenged. I mean, we know that things could be better. I mean, we wish our service was better, you know, to some of the dealers, because, but again, it was a crazy year. You know, when the bottom fell out of it in April, little did we know that the demand was going to be that big in September, October, and we readjusted and yeah, but having said that, it's been a good year for our industry, and we've been fortunate.
And Piet, I've got a group of retailers I speak to every other week, and they said exactly what you've said. I mean, we would have locked people up in their homes a long time ago if we'd known we'd get this kind of response on the backside. But what does the future look like, Piet? I mean, we've had this COVID thing hit us. We could get a second wave, who knows? But when you look at the immediate future and then 5 years down the line, what do you see for our industry?
Well, the immediate future is, this is the immediate future, is wear the mask so that we can kind of mingle till we get the proper vaccine and the proper therapeutics to take care of it. So but that we don't know when that's going to come. In the meantime, let's all use common sense. I mean, obviously, shutting down the economy again, that doesn't work. That's, you know, that doesn't work. There's more damage than good. But, you know, not wearing any mask is crazy too. Okay, so we all have to use common sense and do what makes sense in order to mitigate this whole COVID thing. In the meantime, I believe that for, you know, 21, I mean, the outlook is good. I mean, you know, the housing market is going to stay strong. You know, renovation is going to stay strong. There's pent-up demand there. People are moving. They're moving, you know, from the city to the suburbs. I mean, there's a challenge there, of course, for the commercial side. The residential side is going to be strong. Commercial, we still have to fully understand exactly what the new commercial picture will look like and how people will behave there. But I still truly believe, I mean, we see that at Shaw as well in the organization, there's a lot of people that work from home and do a great job. Don't get me wrong. But it's nothing like coming to work and feel the DNA and feel the heartbeat of the company and meet your associate and your co-worker and your friends, because we're all friends, in the hallway, and be able to have the you know, the interaction, the spur of the moment ideas, and I believe that you know, the pendulum is swinging a little bit too far. It's going to come back. At the end of the day, we're going to find a way back to come together at the office. We got maybe some more flexible time, but in one way, shape, or form. So commercial will kind of find a way which is balanced, and residential will stay good because there's all this growth and all this demand for at least 21 and maybe even into 22. COVID will pass. There will be a solution. It will take a while. The whole world will find a solution, and then we all break out again, because we're all been tough, and we all want to do all the things that we haven't been able to do again in 2020, and that's going to create a tremendous amount of economic growth as well. Our industry, again, if it's exciting. There's a lot of new things happening. Yes, the shift from carpet to hard surfaces, but even in the carpet segment, I mean, there's a lot of new things, new development, new yarn systems, new constructions that can elevate that. Carpet has really seen somewhat of a boost out of all this. On the hard side, I mean, the cores, the constructions, the different mineral cores, the different polymers that are going to be used. You know, I think it's only the beginning. We're going to see so much innovation coming because everybody's really geared up for that right now. That all that is going to do is make our product more attractive to the consumer, get it in front of the consumer, and hopefully we're going to get that consumer dollar coming our way. E-commerce. I mean, we have really, our industry has not contributed or played to an extent in this whole e-commerce business. I mean, it's going to happen. There's no question about it. It's going to happen in one way, shape, or form. And I'm not saying that's the answer, but I mean, our retailers will have to find a way to participate, and I think many of them do that. Many of them needs to find a way to participate in the DIY segment, so that the growth that we see at the big boxes don't always happen there. So we can bring it into our specialty retail family, which is at the end of the day the backbone and the strength of our industry. So I'm very optimistic, Scott. I mean, COVID we're gonna find a solution. So I'm not worried about that. It might take a while. In the meantime, this is a solution. So and for the rest, the housing market, the construction, you know, it's good. The demand for a product is there. There's a lot of focus on the home, and if we do things right, and you know, we make sure that we don't fall into the commodity trap and price war trap. I mean, I've said it when I was in Vegas, inducted in the Hall of Fame. I mean, you know, we see so much focus on this LVT, so much focus on these different products. Shame on us actually if we now fall in that commodity trap and let it become a category where we can't make any money on. But I don't believe that. I mean, I think we're wise enough and we have a lot of common sense. As a matter of fact, when I look at the Cortec line, not only have we grown our business top line wise, but bottom line, it's even, you know, our margins have improved. And it's because we have a focus on better products, on price, consistency, stability, uniformity. So there is a clear opportunity for us to continue to bring more profitability in the whole of the industry. And with the boom ahead of us, I think it's going to be a boom. With the boom ahead of us, shame on us if we don't take advantage of that. But nothing but positive. I'm really excited.
That's good. So Piet, I also got to attend the NFA conference, and I agree with your comment about pent-up demand. It was so good to see real people and actually interact with them. I mean, we all had our mask on, but it was just nice to see people. And these retailers that I'm speaking to on the phone on a weekly basis, they said the same thing. We love being able to work from home, but we miss the ideas that are spurred by walking by someone's office and saying, "Hey, have you thought about?" And that leads to a whole new road that we're taking. So yeah, there's going to have to be some coming back to a different sense of normalcy, no doubt about it. Piet, we're at the end of our time together. And guys, I want to remind everybody, if you go to WFCA.org tomorrow, this recording will be on there, as well as the Leader's Journey from last week. I want you to be able to encourage other people to see this as well. I know that we do these in the middle of the day, and so it's difficult sometimes for people to get away. We've had a very great response to viewing the video from last week, and I know we'll have the same thing with Piet. Piet, closing comments, what would you say to leaders in the industry?
What would I say to the leaders in the industry? I mean, these are, I kind of briefly touched on it with this COVID. These are truly uncharted waters that we are sailing in right now. Nobody knows what exactly is going to happen in the next month, in the next, you know, nobody knows. Nobody has been in this environment before. I think as a leader today, you have to step up to the plate and truly be the leader. Truly take the helm and be the one that's navigating your ship through these stormy waters. Yes, I believe in empowering other people and delegating and giving people a chance to kind of make decisions as well. But I think it's not fair in an environment where there's so much unknown to kind of pass the responsibility on how to navigate these waters to other people than yourself. As a leader, when there's a crisis, when we're swimming in these or sailing in these stormy waters, you have to be in charge and you have to make the decision. So be positive, have a great attitude towards your team. Your team is the most important asset that you have around you, and support them in every which way you can, and make the decision, the tough decision, so that at least they know what direction we're going to go. Apart from that, it's just, be passionate about what you do. That's just my thing. And it shows. If you're passionate, your team feels good. If you're positive, your team feels good, and they will go through the wall for you. So
your passion is contagious, and I think that leads to, we enjoy what we're passionate about. You don't have to come to work; you get to come to work, and that's certainly the case. Not only with you, Piet, and knowing you personally, but also with the people around you. Thank you so much for giving us this time today. Again, I know how busy you are. Scheduling you can be a challenge, and you made time for us, and I really appreciate that. Appreciate your wisdom, appreciate the impact you've had on the industry, and I would like to thank WFCA again for allowing us to do this group of seminars really about leaders and understanding what makes them tick and how can we apply those principles to our own life. It's great to have you as a friend and great to have you leading in our industry. Guys, once again, go to WFCA.org. You can look at this video and review it again, or refer other people to it. And we'll be back with you in a few weeks. We'll have another industry leader on with you and share the word. Thanks, Piet. Have a great rest of the week and great weekend.
Scott, thank you, everyone.
See you.